Well, I'm so pleased to have you gentlemen here for a number of reasons. But this particular panel, we are talking about pioneering. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about pioneering is because it's so important in this space. It's important to get more organizations, more companies to come along on this journey. And you two have been real pioneers. The Shared Value Initiative, in terms of actually creating a mindset among companies that they can deliver social good while still making a profit. And Stan, what IBM has done in terms of creating models for good corporate engagement that so many other companies have been able to follow. This year represents our 25th anniversary at PYXERA Global, and Mark and Stan are two of the recipients of our Pioneers in Purposeful Global Engagement Award. So it's great to have you be able to share some of your thoughts today about why you are pioneers, why you cared to be pioneers, and what it means to be a pioneer. And I'll start with you, Mark.
Well, thanks. Well, you know, I'm not sure I ever expected to be a pioneer or even necessarily think of myself that way. But it's really been about pursuing a question. And the question is, how do you achieve social change and social impact? And pursuing that question has led me from a background in venture capital into philanthropy, and then beyond philanthropy into working with corporations, this idea of shared value, working across sectors with our idea of collective impact, and really trying to figure out what's holding the world back and where are the levers that really can help make change at scale that's so badly needed.
Why are you a pioneer, Stan?
I don't know about the pioneer part of it, but I think that from corporation standpoint, it is good business to focus in on your business strategy and societal impact in a shared way to produce real value for the company. And you can't do that if you ignore the importance of the role that business plays in society. Now, this isn't something new for a large company. If you think about it, in the 1930s, IBM worked with the government and created Social Security. There was a piece of legislation. It couldn't have been implemented by the government. A company working with the government implemented a path-breaking piece of legislation that had real value for the company, and it came as a result of a public-private partnership, or when IBM helped create the issue of computer science, which didn't exist until 1946. Actually, the CEO of the IBM company named it computer science. So now what we really need is a 21st century version of that, where people really understand the value, the real value to your employees, the real value to your shareholders, the real value to your company. And you can't do that operating alone. No one company can do something really significant in improving education or making an impact on the environment or addressing the challenge of healthcare. It has to involve cross-sector activity.
Well, no one company can do it alone. This is one of the reasons we consider IBM to be a pioneer, is because you have worked in such close collaboration with many other companies, including some of your competitors, in developing these models and in rolling them out so that you could have a greater impact. Why would you do that? Why not just own it and be the champion of it at IBM?
Well, look, I mean, from a branding standpoint, there are certain things that you will want to own. You know, we'll use the Watson technology and improve cancer diagnostics and treatment. And that will be something that IBM will do. Significant, important. On the other hand, coming up with ways to engage your employees to make an impact on society through the Corporate Service Corps, where we've had 3,000 of our employees on 1,000 teams around the world. That's something we definitely want to invite other companies in. We want to create a model so that they can engage in it. Basically adding our value to our clients, which is critically important. Why work with IBM? Because we add so much value to the relationship between IBM and our clients. But secondly, you really want to change society's view of companies. And you can't do that on your own. Actually, you don't want to have outliers. You want to get large numbers of companies behaving in a way that makes an impact on society, because that's good for your sector and it's good for all companies. So when we engage other companies, for example, in our PTech program, to build the skills of the next generation of workers and address U.S. competitiveness, that's something that IBM can lead on, but we need collaborators and partners. And the benefit is to IBM, but the benefit is more broadly to society.
Mark, how is that perception of business's role in society changing? And what do you see through the Shared Value Initiative? Is it real change?
I think there's absolutely real change, and we see it by leading companies all around the world. The Shared Value Initiative really has thousands of members spread all over the world and is beginning to create nuclei of independent action around shared value in different parts of the world, where local companies are coming together and saying, how does this issue apply, this idea apply to the issues in our country and to the situation in our country? And that's very, very powerful, because the idea is a great umbrella, but to make it real, it has to be about a specific business and a specific issue in a specific geography. And that's what we're seeing happen in so many different industries in so many different places. So it's very exciting. But I will say it is also a real change in the mindset for business. The idea that we can make money working with low-income populations, and that that's okay, it doesn't have to be charity. The idea that we can rethink our products, we can rethink our value chain, to take into account social issues, really build it into our strategy. It doesn't have to be the CSR and foundation people off to the side. These are real shifts in how companies operate. We're seeing companies create new positions of vice president of shared value or of social innovation, because they didn't have a role that was both operational and involved social issues before. And so it's a real shift. It will take time.
It's a real shift. It will take time. And one of the things we talked about earlier today is there are not enough companies that are going this shared value route. And I have a specific question from Twitter from Asia Menson at GSK. And her question is, how do we get more business and civil society involved in multi-sectoral partnership to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals so that it's not the same people at the table?
Well, I think you have to socialize the impact. I think that a lot of people thought about corporate philanthropy as something that was about generosity, and that it was important for a company to be generous and to do something. They even had phrases like giving back, and that's a good thing to do, but it doesn't focus in on the impact or the value. I think having clear metrics, so when you do path-breaking activity in this area, has it helped you significantly improve the skills of your workforce? Has it helped you retain top talent in your company? Has it helped you attract socially responsible investors to invest in what you're doing? Has it helped you open new markets? Has it helped you improve your relationship with clients? Has the collaboration and partnership with government or not-for-profits helped solve a problem that impacts on your company bottom line? Companies are very good at measuring a whole host of things. They haven't been as good at measuring the clear value of your corporate citizenship program. We do that year to year. We present it to our board of directors so that they can actually see, according to 5 different metrics, what are the actual benefits, and that gives them confidence that this is something that, regardless of your ups and downs from a corporate profit standpoint, this is something that is as valuable as making your investment in research or making your investment in skills building for your employees. It's critically important. It has metrics. And when other companies take a look at that, they begin to see, well, this could be viewed in a different way. At the Harvard Business School, one of the professors there, Rosabeth Kantor, described the IBM approach as going from spare change to real change. Real change is something that you measure, and then you have confidence that if you make these investments in doing things in a different way, you have actual results.
Now, Mark, you've worked with a lot of different companies on their shared value programs, and you've looked at this issue of measurement. Can you give us some specific examples of how companies have measured the value back to the company and how they've used that information to further their work?
Sure, and it's not just measuring the social impact, but it's understanding the link between the social impact and the business benefit. How does what you're achieving in terms of social impact drive benefits for the company that in turn justify investing more resources and efforts in achieving greater social impact? And so that link is often missing. We've had a working group of a fascinating cross-section of companies that have tried to focus on how do you measure health outcomes and improvement. And it's the obvious people like pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies, but it's also Verizon, who sees that using mobile technology is increasingly important in healthcare. It is software companies. It is a whole host of companies that see new business opportunities in solving health problems. And I completely agree with Stan that to work across sectors, you have to have a common set of metrics. You have to be measuring the same things toward the same goals. And I think what really motivates people to work across these sectors is when they realize it enables them to reach their own goals. We have another working group at the Shared Value Initiative, which is the heads of 15 of the largest international NGOs in the world. And they are meeting regularly to figure out what are the shared value projects that we can do with companies that are profit-making, because we see that that will enable us to scale our impact and serve our mission. And so it's recognizing that whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're a company, whether you're in government policy, you have to work across these sectors if you're going to achieve your goals.
But working across those sectors is also really, really challenging. It's
Yes.
hard to forge a real partnership. What are some of the challenges in partnership?
Well, first of all, you can't change anything unless you deeply understand it. If you want to make an impact on education and you don't understand how it's structured, you don't understand the critical policy issues, governance issues, finance issues, you will not be successful. If you're trying to make a collaboration and partnership with a non-governmental entity, you have to understand how they operate, what motivates them, and they have to understand you. For me, it helps that I was the Deputy Chancellor of Schools in New York. It helped that I worked for a mayor or a governor. It helped that I ran a not-for-profit organization. But for a lot of people, working cross-sector involves a real learning curve. You can't be successful with a collaborator and partner unless you understand what motivates them, the critical organizational issues, and a collaboration and partnership needs to be equal. You can't just say, because we're giving you money, we want you to do the following kinds of things, and we're not going to share that work with you. When we came up with the idea of transforming high school in America and hopefully around the world, and thinking about how you could change the curriculum to include workplace skills, how you could bring higher education and K-12 together in an innovative and creative way involving with businesses so you could get at the skills crisis, that involved a deep collaboration. We needed to get other companies involved. We needed government support at the highest level. President of the United States, governors, mayors, school district leaders, university presidents. That's very complicated. But it's actually no more complicated than a lot of difficult things that companies do. They do it all the time. But they have to apply the same skill to this kind of work. I think if you think that it's easy, maybe writing a check is easy. Bringing about real significant change involves a real commitment to understand and knowledge about the cross-sector. And then identifying what does success look like at the end of a 3-month period, a 6-month period, or a 9-month period. Don't wait for the end to determine whether or not you've got results, and don't wait for the end to find out whether or not the thing that you're trying to do is actually scalable or sustainable. There have been a lot of examples of people who have done one great school somewhere, and then it never goes to scale. And why is that? Because the scale-up strategy should have been part of the initiation strategy. So all of these things are things that businesses do in their day-to-day work about building their company. They have to apply the same kind of determined knowledge to the kinds of things that we're talking about in terms of cross-sector. And from the standpoint of government and not-for-profits, you have to see business as a real partner, not somebody with a deep pocket, not somebody who doesn't know anything about the issues that you're involved with. You've got to be able to do the same kind of understanding about how to motivate cross-sector. And that's how you get the real benefit. That's how you get the triple value.
And I think what's really implicit in what you've described, which I agree with completely, is the leadership role that companies can play. They can get out in front and they can bring together these consortiums. And the President of the United States will listen to IBM. Right. And so will governors. And so will nonprofits all over the world. They can't control the initiative completely. They can't own it completely, but they can bring the right parties together in a way that government has a very hard time doing, and nonprofits often don't have the influence and leverage to do. And so it isn't always that companies have the answer or need to be in charge, but companies can get the ball rolling by taking a leadership role.
One of the things that's always interesting to me about shared value is this idea that there's some very good companies doing very good work, calling it shared value with their left hand, and with their right hand, they may have some pretty abhorrent
Sure.
business practices. How do you square that circle?
Well, you know, the world is changing, and there are a lot of industries that are in real transition, whether it is energy production, whether it is food and beverage, and so on. And these industries, you know, unfortunately, just like the record industry a couple decades ago, have a very profitable business model and very demanding shareholders. And it's very hard for them to let go of what they're currently doing, even if they know that's not the future, to shift over to something where there is a learning curve and there is not the same level of profitability at the outset, and there's a higher degree of risk because it's a new product and a new market that they don't understand as well. And so I think we see a lot of companies that struggle in transition. And again, part of it is the leadership. It takes a leader with a very strong vision to help a company make that move. And part of it, unfortunately, is not going too fast so that you leave your shareholders behind, or rather they kick you out, which is the more likely outcome. So it is managing that process. And I have to say, one of the differences that the Shared Value Initiative, I think, has in perspective from a lot of the older business and society organizations is we're not looking to say, is business good or evil? Is this a good company or a bad company? We're looking to say this company has a set of resources that can be very powerful for social change, and there are a set of social issues that matter to the success of that business. And what we want to do is unleash the power of that company to find business opportunities in solving social problems. And yes, every major company has something they're doing wrong somewhere in the world, I'm quite sure.
Except for IBM.
Except IBM.
Well, I would argue that the things that you're doing wrong are not in the business interest of the company, that they may appear to be in the interest in the short term. Right. So take an example of, you know, IBM opened the first integrated manufacturing plant in the United States below the Mason-Dixon line. At that point, companies were segregated. They thought that was in their interest. That's what government wanted. That's what they did. IBM broke that by opening up what became Lexmark Computers in Lexington, Kentucky, the first integrated manufacturing plant, before there was a Civil Rights Act. Integrated the schools in Lexington, Kentucky. That was a risky move on the part of a business. On the other hand, it paid benefits to the company from an economic standpoint, being able to demonstrate its values, and there were a whole host of activities that took place that actually benefited IBM as a result of that, in terms of a variety of different benefits for your employees. They might look like cost in the short term, but in the long term, they produce value. In the environmental space, they look like they're costly in the short term, they actually produce economic value over the long term. So I think this idea that somehow bad business behavior is something that's good for your bottom line, and this social responsibility or corporate citizenship is something different, then it's only marginally beneficial to the bottom line. I would blow that completely away, and we've got actual practices and clear examples that that kind of leadership is good for your employees, it's good for your shareholders, it actually helps attract the best talent to work in your company. There are a lot of young people who are the most gifted, the most talented, you want to recruit them. They don't want to work for a company that doesn't pay attention to the kind of things that we're talking about. So I really think it's not an either-or situation. It's how you approach it, whether it's short-term or longer-term. When you make investments in research, they don't necessarily produce their benefit in a 30-day period. Everybody understands that. That's what this is about.
Well, thank you both for being here. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for bringing so many companies along on this journey. And it will be a slow journey, but we'll be on it together. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Deirdre.